Hello, I'm Mr. Luxury, and if you'd like to learn more about the wealthy, high-class, and luxurious style of living, make sure to check out my channel in the description below. But enough about me. This video is about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is currently the richest man in the world, with a net worth of anywhere from $140 to $150 billion. He's one of the few men to hear Dr. Evil demand $100 billion and think he should aim a bit higher. He attended Princeton University and spent some time working at a hedge fund on Wall Street. He then moved to Seattle and, while working out of his garage, started up a small book-selling website called Amazon. The site has grown into an absolute monolith, and Bezos still enjoys 16% ownership in it, along with all the perks of being its CEO. There's a lot one can do with $150 billion, and Bezos has spent his money in plenty of interesting ways. Here are the top 10 things Jeff Bezos spends his money on. The largest house in Washington, D.C. In 2016, Bezos purchased the largest mansion in Washington, D.C., paying $23 million in cash to make it his own. It's actually an old textile museum and consists of two homes, entitled The Pope and The Wood, respectively. Both are over 100 years old and connected by a walkway. Overall, the mansion stretches out over 27,000 square feet, which you might think would be more than enough for anybody. Jeff Bezos, however, would disagree, as his goal is to make the place even bigger. In April 2018, the Washingtonian obtained blueprints for the extension Bezos has in mind for his new, not-so-humble abode. Costing an additional $12 million, Bezos is looking to add until his mansion has 25 bathrooms, 11 bedrooms, 5 living rooms, 3 kitchens, and a gigantic ballroom, among other amenities. Bezos wants his home to be the ultimate in DC socializing, and with digs like that, he's sure to meet his goal. But a globe-trotting celebrity like Bezos can't simply settle for one house. Rather, his DC mansion is simply his 5th home, as he currently owns estates all across the United States. He owns a 2-home property in Medina, Washington State, a 2-home property in Beverly Hills, California, a ranch house in Van Horn, Texas, and several condos in Central Park, New York City, along with his DC mega mansion. The space race. Running Amazon isn't Jeff Bezos' only passion. He also, much like fellow billionaires Elon Musk and Richard Branson, is fascinated with space, particularly space tourism. This fascination was sparked when Bezos was just 5 years old and watched the Apollo moon landings. And in 2000, Bezos founded the company Blue Origin, whose goal is to someday make space travel affordable for all. Recognizing that sending people into space is expensive, Bezos sells off roughly $1 billion of Amazon stock every year to fund Blue Origin, reports the New York Times. The venture appears to be paying off, as their 9th test flight on July 18, 2018, carried actual people 393,000 feet into the air, past the 380,000-foot mark that is considered the border between Earth and space. The company hopes to have actual customers touring space sometime in 2019. Bezos' love of space isn't limited to mere tourism. He also uses his money to preserve space travel's past. As an example, in 2013, he financed the recovery of pieces of rocket engines from those pivotal Apollo missions that landed men on the moon. These pieces had sunk 14,000 feet down in the Atlantic Ocean, deeper than even the Titanic had sunk. One of these pieces, a restored F-1 booster from Apollo 12, was donated by NASA to Seattle's Museum of Flight in 2015, at Bezos' request. A Gulfstream G65ER jet. For someone worth such an insane amount of money, it's surprising that Jeff Bezos' personal methods of transportation are so humble. Most famously, after taking Amazon public and amassing over $12 billion in the process, Bezos still insisted on driving to work in the most modest of vehicles, a 1996 Honda Accord. By 2013, he was still driving a simple Honda, albeit a bigger one. It's all part of his drive, too. As he explained to 60 Minutes in 1999, spend money on things that matter to customers, and not spending money on things that don't. But that doesn't mean Bezos is completely devoted to frugality in his travels. He spares no expense for occasions when driving a Honda simply won't cut it, such as when he must fly. Not only does Bezos take a private jet, he owns said jet through his holding company, Poplar Glen. It's a top-of-the-line 2015 Gulfstream G650ER, valued at an incredible $65 million, and has been touted as the longest-range business jet in the world, according to the Robb Report. It can reach speeds of Mach 0.925, or 704 miles an hour, and can travel 7,500 nautical miles without needing to refuel. The plane's insides are pure luxury, with incredible spacious and comfortable seating, as well as a cabin that gets completely new fresh air every 2 minutes. So many investments. It's hard to spend $150 billion on yourself, so Jeff Bezos instead spends it on multiple investments across various fields. He even has a website, bezosexpeditions.com, devoted to tabulating his many investments. As is befitting a man who made his billions online, Bezos is big on investing in technology, particularly the kind that helps connect people and keep them informed. He's put money into Twitter, given over $50 million in venture capital to Business Insider, and invested in social platforms like Teach Street, which helps provide students with information about classes and teachers in their area, ZocDoc, which helps people find affordable doctors in their area, and Nextdoor, a social media site devoted to happenings in one's local neighborhood. Bezos' investments often pay off greatly. In the case of Workday, its initial public offering after going public, thanks to Bezos' investment, earned the company $684 million. Bezos is also a fan of investing in travel companies as well. He put $112 million into financing Airbnb and invested $35 million into Uber. Then there's the more traditional investments, such as print news. Through his group Nash Holdings LLC, Bezos purchased the Washington Post in 2013 for what was reported as $250 million. Since then, he's worked to change the Post from a traditional and declining ink and paper business into a web-savvy and data-driven company that, in 2016, published over 1,200 articles a day. Interestingly enough, Bezos doesn't just invest in future-sounding tech. He also has an affinity for traditional retail, as evidenced by his investment in Glassy Baby. They make handcrafted glassbone holders for votive candles, those short, thick candles often seen at a church, and something about them clearly caught Bezos' eye. Real estate. As briefly mentioned earlier, Bezos has real estate literally from sea to shining sea. And he doesn't just use them for living space. He uses his estate in Texas, the 165,000-acre corn ranch, as a base of operations for Blue Origin, his outer space company that's hoping to make space tourism as regular an occurrence as city bus tours. The corn ranch also hosts test launches for New Shepard, the vertical landing manned suborbital rocket that is Bezos' best hope for popularizing space tourism someday. Then there's his personal real estate, such as his 2 Beverly Hills homes, his lakeside Washington State property, which he expanded to over 30,000 square feet at a cost of $28 million, and his 10,000 square foot Manhattan apartment inside Century Tower. The Manhattan home cost him around $10 million, but has been more than worth it, especially to the city. Bezos' presence alone sent Century Tower's property values skyrocketing. If you want to be Jeff Bezos' New York neighbor, expect to shell out anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 per square foot. Charitable donations. With more money than anyone in modern history, it would be a shame if Jeff Bezos didn't use at least some of it to help others. Fortunately, he does exactly that, investing small fortunes and giving back to his community and the world in general. For the most part, Bezos gives back by making it easier for people to further their education, particularly those who otherwise would not have the financial means to do so. In September of 2018, he launched the Bezos Day One Fund, where he would pledge $2 billion to support homeless families through ventures such as building high-end, Montessori-style preschools in low-income neighborhoods. In addition, his Bezos Family Foundation funds many in educational projects, such as Vroom, Students Rebuild, and Mind in the Making. Plus, he personally has donated millions of dollars to educational facilities, such as the Seattle Museum of History and Industry, not to mention Princeton University, his alma mater. What's more, Bezos is using his money to help kids caught in an immigration loop. In January 2018, he and his wife Mackenzie donated an incredible $33 million to the Dream US. The Dream is a group that strives to help dreamers, undocumented immigrants brought to the US as children, to get to college and realize their untapped potential. With that money, the Dream will be able to award scholarships to 1,000 high schoolers with DACA status, who might otherwise have slipped through the cracks thanks to US's current battle with immigration. A very early form of Google. It's common thinking that Jeff Bezos is worth $150 billion thanks entirely to Amazon. That's not entirely true, however. Even if Amazon had ultimately tanked like so many other late 90s dot-coms, Bezos likely would have been a billionaire many times over thanks to an early investment in, of all things, Google. In 1998, Bezos was still working hard at establishing Amazon as a legitimate long-term venture when he bought out an Indian delivery service called Zhongli. While that venture proved a failure, it did introduce Bezos to a man named Ram Shriram, who was concurrently advising two Stanford students, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, during their attempts to launch a brand new search engine called Google. Shriram introduced Page and Brin to Bezos, and after a single demonstration of Google, the Amazon CEO decided he wanted to invest. However, by this time the initial investing period had ended. Under normal circumstances, Bezos would be out of luck. Luckily, however, Jeff Bezos does not operate under normal circumstances. Thanks to just a few years of running Amazon, he was already worth $1.6 billion. This convinced Page and Brin that Bezos knew what he was doing with his money, so they allowed him to invest in Google, which has clearly paid off in dividends. Bezos invested a reported $1 million in Google, but how much he made off of it, nobody can really say. To this day, Bezos has refused to provide such details. That said, this is Google we're talking about. It's currently worth over $279 billion, according to geo-banking rates, and is the most popular search engine on the planet. It's highly likely that, though he was a billionaire already, had Amazon gone no further, Google would likely have made Bezos one of the richest people anyway. A 10,000-year clock. Some of Jeff Bezos' money goes to downright unusual ideas. For example, he wants to build a giant clock that will run for 10,000 years. Most likely, it would outlast our current civilization. This clock is the brainchild of the Long Now Foundation, working 500 feet inside a mountain located on Bezos' Van Horn, Texas property. Long Now workers are currently cobbling together the 500-foot-tall mechanical clock designed to run for a literal 10,000 years. As Bezos explained in a tweet, the clocks are a symbol for long-term thinking. He so believes in that symbol that he has donated a reported $42 million towards this clock's completion. It's an ambitious project to be sure, especially considering he nor any of the Long Now employees will be around to know for sure if it works. But to Bezos, that's the point. As he told Wired, over the lifetime of this clock, the United States won't exist. Whole civilizations will rise and fall. New systems of government will be invented. You can't imagine the world, no one can, that we're trying to get this clock to pass through. Incredible security. Being the richest man on the planet means you're in the public eye far more than the average person, and Bezos realizes just this. So he spares no expense when making sure he and his family are as safe and secure as possible. Recently, Fortune reported that in 2016, Amazon spent an incredible $1.6 million on security for Bezos. That figure, by the way, is for his own private security, as per an Amazon filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission. He already has public security at all Amazon facilities. Amazon's justification for such an expensive secondary security force was that Bezos really didn't earn much money that year. His base salary is actually relatively low, a reported $81,840 per year. And he apparently didn't receive any stock options in 2016. In other words, the security cost likely came out of his own pocket. In case you were wondering how the cost of Bezos' private security measures up to his peers, it turns out that he spends more than basically anyone else. Apple, for example, spent a comparatively paltry $200,000 on security for CEO Tim Cook in 2016. Even companies like Oracle, who in 2015 reportedly spent $1.5 million in security for founder Larry Ellison, fall short compared to how much Bezos is willing to spend on keeping himself safe. A chunk of Seattle. Jeff Bezos technically doesn't own all of Seattle, but at this point, he might as well. His real estate holdings in Amazon's base city are massive. In 2012, Bezos purchased close to a dozen buildings, comprising nearly 2 million square feet of office space. He turned them all into Amazon's South Lake Union headquarters. This purchase, which cost $1.5 billion, instantly made Amazon one of the top commercial property owners in Seattle. But the company wasn't done. In the same year, Amazon spent $200 million to purchase a 3-block space in Seattle, known as the Denny Triangle, for even more office space. 2 years later, they spent $50 million on a 4th block for their triangle. All this resulted in Seattle Times reporting that, as of late August 2017, Amazon owned as much office space as 40 other Seattle companies combined. The Seattle offices, by the way, are incredible, definitely worthy of bearing the Amazon name. Bezos very likely designed the unique futuristic architecture and innovative biospheres to help his Amazon employees stay motivated. And if they never stop creating and evolving, they will ensure Amazon never stops thriving. And Jeff Bezos never stops having near-limitless funds to help the world in any way he sees fit. As always, I'm Mr. Luxury. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're looking for more luxury content, make sure to check out my channel in the description below.